Welcome to
영국 mango.
So today we're gonna discuss about the annual leave
Yes.
compared to Korea and UK.
Yeah. So grab a drink and come join us.
Yay! So let's kick off with how many holidays you have.
So I think minimum is 22 days, but I have 27 plus bank holidays, which I think is fairly normal for the UK. What's it like in Korea?
In Korea, before we move on, the bank holiday means like a national holiday. I think it's kind of unique how in UK we call it as a bank holiday. Anyway, in Korea we have about 15 to 25 holidays, but it really depends on how many years you've worked in the company. For example, when I just first started working in Korea, I got one holiday per month that I started working. Like for example,
so just 12 days a year.
For example, in my first month of internship, I got one holiday, and the next month I'll get another one holiday. So which means in the whole year I'll end up getting like about 12 holidays. And I think the ridiculous thing about like Korean annual leave is that it's not easy to make a leave.
I just drank coffee. I mean, I was so shocked by hearing about those 12 days. I choked on my coffee, actually. But that is ridiculously low.
It is.
Especially, so wait, does it include national holidays?
No, it excludes.
How many national holidays do you
Korea
get?
have plenty of national holidays. I can't really recall the exact number. But I think it's about like 10 to 15, I guess. So it's not a small amount of national holidays.
But it's different when you can choose the days you want to take off versus being off on the days where everyone else is off and it's really busy and maybe the trains aren't working. It's very different.
Yeah. That's the whole point. Like I couldn't use, for example, I worked in like consultancy around like a year and a half. And then I think I used like only 2 days of annual leave throughout the whole working period.
So if you don't use the annual leave, do you get paid back at the end?
Yeah, we can get reimbursed as a payment. But thinking of if you're junior, they don't really count that much money on like each days that you haven't used until then. So it's not a big amount. I would rather like take time off and relax instead of getting money.
It's needed. Holidays are good for you, and making sure you're taking the time off is like actually makes you more productive, more efficient. Have you heard of like the movement for a 4-day work week?
I heard about it. Is it still active?
Yeah, and like every study, most use cases where they do trial a 4-day work week, like it's shown people are more efficient, and it's actually got so many proven benefits every time that it's been trialed. Maybe different industries it won't work as well, but it's really consistent. And I was listening to a podcast, and it's been about 100 years since, or is it 200 years? 100 years since we moved from the 6-day work week. So 4-day work week is next.
You want to know a hilarious thing? Korea had a discussion about working 6 days a week.
Oh, to move towards 6 days a week.
Yeah.
And what was the opinion? Like, were people against it, or were there a lot more people sort of thinking?
It was one of the crazy idea of our previous president. I want to make it political, but he claimed that, why don't we work, was it 62 or like 69 hours a week? And thinking of like in Korea, we said it's like 52 hours a week is something like standard. Well, 52 is still a lot. Like
it's a lot. Like I feel like under 40 is sort of like the standard, depending on your job.
Yeah. So people were outrageous that how can you ever say that? Because annual leave, what I realized after moving to UK, it really changes your life. You know, it makes time to spend time with family, friend. Kind of refresh yourself, get ready for like next move. It's very important. It's like vital thing in your life.
Yeah.
Right?
I was reading an article actually yesterday morning that was talking about Gen Z and career minimalism, where they don't care so much about advancing their career and working hard because it is that work-life balance. Like they'll take on a managerial role and they'll do more if it comes with higher pay or better benefits. They're not going to do it for nothing, because when you're in your 20s, you want to live your life. Like, you're actually life is important, and finding that balance is really important. I think, especially if you're in a job where you just have no spare time, you don't have the time to figure out your life out, basically.
Yeah, 100%. Could you tell us, like, how do you get approval about annual leave? When you want to go on a leave, how do you request it?
It depends by organization. I feel some organizations will have like an app or a software. You submit the request and it goes to your manager. My organization's a bit smaller, so I just put it in an Excel sheet. I talk to my manager about it, and she approves it or she doesn't approve it. She hasn't ever not approved my annual leave, because organizations will have policies where you have to submit annual leave requests X months in advance. If it's more than 2 days, needs to be more than a week in advance. If it's more than a week, needs to be more than a month in advance. Those kind of policies.
But it's not mandatory. I think in my contract there is also like clause that you should try to notify your boss far advance if you're taking like a long holiday. But it's not mandatory.
So it's like you'll have something in the contract, but it'll be more casual. It depends on. So what's your process like for annual leave and time off?
I think my previous company and my current one, both, we have like internal system. We submit like, I want to go holiday this to this, but I don't expect them to approve. I know that they're gonna approve. I think there's a bit of a mindset. I don't really care about what my boss thinks when I submit annual leave.
Wait,
don't you
care
know
what your boss thinks?
No, because I feel like it's more of my rights, right?
Yeah, no, it's our rights. It's sort of,
In Korea, sorry, I'm just trying to come up with like comparison and cultural difference wise. In Korea, when I wanted to use my 1 day annual leave, I had to think about, how is my boss feeling this week? Is it busy? Is this project like need me so much that I can't even use 1 day? You know, I was thinking so much about how other people in the company will think. But thinking of now, maybe I just like changing my mindset to a more, European way. I just think like that 1 day, that 1 week wouldn't change much in terms of company's perspective.
Yeah. No, but I've definitely been there with certain roles where it's so busy, it's so intense, like I feel like I can't take a day off sick. But in reality, if you just get worn down and you don't take any time off, you don't become a good employee, firstly. And your life is more important than your job, I would say. Depends on your job. It depends what you're doing. But everyone's different. And some people are lucky to sort of be in a career or in a job that is sort of everything to them. Which I'm really passionate about my role. So I do have that, but at the same time, that balance and like having something different going on in your life is really important.
I wouldn't generalize my experience, but I would definitely say there are some difference that in UK they respect more of your decision on going to annual leave, whilst in Korea they might get annoyed if you go on an annual leave like such a long time. Like for example, recently we've been to a holiday together, right? We took quite a long annual leave. About like 2-3 weeks.
I've used up most of my annual leave. I'm quite upset.
I'm a bit upset too. If I were in the same situation in Korea and say, I'm just gonna go to Thailand, have some long annual leave, chill, vacation, I don't think people around my coworkers would be as happy and supportive as they are here. You know, my colleagues would say, have a fantastic time. You know, don't even look at your laptop, have fun. But those kind of supportive words, I was really touched and appreciated about those culture.
Yeah, no, I think it's important. I feel that's common. And I guess it depends on the industry, depends on the country. But I do think, I hear stories about people working in other countries and in particularly, how would I say it, roles or sectors that are known to overwork, sort of, I guess. I won't name anyone specifically, but tech, law, finance, those kind of ones. And expressions like, weekends are optional kind of thing is quite prevalent. And some people are able to put up with it, but I genuinely think it takes years off your life. But if you're earning a lot of money and you're also able to pay for the gym and pay for lots of drugs and good food to improve your health, maybe that balances it out. But I do think the lack of sleep and the increased stress overall will make you die young. So don't do it.
I agree.
But maybe do it. I'm not your boss. You can do what you like. On other sort of like keywords that are holiday related, what are your toil policies like at your work?
Ooh. Could you remind me what toil was?
So toil stands for time off in lieu. In lieu is actually a French word.
Maybe you should spell it out.
In lieu, so I think it's in English you'd be like IN space LIEU. And it's kind of time instead of. So when you do overtime, you can take those hours back as time in lieu. So you get holiday. So I had a big event last year and I did about maybe 10 days of overtime in a month, maybe. It was a lot. It was too much. So I took it all off in lieu in December and I had an excellent December. But it's quite funny. You pronounce it in lieu, but me and my sister, we're half French. So I remember she used to, at her job, be like, oh, I'm going to take some time off en lieu. Is how you pronounce it. And people just looked at her like, ho. So it's quite funny. There's a lot of words like that if you don't actively mispronounce in the English way.
En lieu.
In lieu, yeah. There's also a place in
but
the
I want
south.
to pronounce in French way.
Yeah, en lieu. Well, no one will understand you and they will make fun of you.
Okay.
There's also a place in the south of England called, I'll spell it out actually, BEAULIEU. So in English, you're supposed to say bouli. We're just off to bouli.
Yeah.
In French, it's beaulieu. So when we were asking for directions, we were like, excuse me, do you know where beaulieu is? And everyone was like, oh, you mean bouli? So there's lots of words like that English is confusing if you haven't been taught it Have you come across any words like that are just, you think they're pronounced in a very silly way?
Mm-hmm. Not regarding to French, but I would love to like have another episode about like a English word mispronounced, which came from French, because French makes everything sound so chic.
Yeah, there's lots of French words in English as well. There's so many. Oh yeah, if I do a French accent, it makes me seem chic. But French people, some French people are chic, but French people are not chic too.
Depends on people.
There's also other words. We could do an episode on loads of words like karaoke. Yeah. Like in Japanese it's karaoke. But so when Japanese people are learning English, because I used to teach English as a second language in Japan, that was a typical one that I'd be like, don't pronounce it as it's supposed to be pronounced. You have to go karaoke. So what's your toil policy at work? Ooh. Are you able to take toil whenever you like, or do you have to get it approved?
Good question. I think it totally depends on the working culture of each companies, but I think I've been quite lucky in my position. If I work extra hours, I wouldn't report to my boss, but I'll voluntarily take toil. For example, if I worked extra 2 hours, I would start my work 2 hours later than I'm supposed to, that I can balance myself, like giving myself more time to recover by compensating the hours that I worked extra shifts.
Oh, so do you mean within the same day, or would you do it a different day?
I try to do right next day because I like to just even out instead of keeping it record. But in your case, you have worked like extra hours, like about a month, the whole month. So it's nice to keep track and like claim it later.
I feel like toil is more sort of like formalized, like something that you would track and keep a record of. No, it's quite nice that you are able to sort of manage your own time in that way. Like, are your hours quite flexible in terms of when you can start and finish? Again,
it depends on the position. Maybe we should make an episode out of what we do. I work in tech engineer, so it gives me more autonomy to decide on my hours and how I use my resources, because I don't have much meeting. The things that I make is like making like all alone, not like I need to discuss with my boss or team on every levels of decisions that I make.
Yeah, that's nice. And I feel like because you're quite a small organization as well, like there's not loads of Like you're given more, because I work for within a small team as well, and you're trusted and given the responsibility for a lot more than in huge organizations. Like when I've worked in a university, there's so many layers of
administration, like stuff to go through.
So many things to approve, and even the smallest things, there's someone who needs to check it.
Yeah,
whereas
you get a signature, right?
I'm like, I can do anything, and I'm trusted to to know what's best, basically.
That's true. Wow, time flies.
When you're having fun.
It is.
How long? Okay, 17 minutes. Nice. Sorry about the coughs. I've been coughing on my coffee, and I hope it's not showed up too much in the audio.
Oh, it wouldn't.
But you know what? That's real life. That's the real tea. I have a sore throat.
Yeah, so we can give a summary. Today we talked about the annual leave, how many annual leaves we have in Korea, in UK, how we get the approval request, and how's the culture behind it, the supportive culture, which I personally think is so much better than Korea. But we're gonna make English material for this episode.
Yeah, so check the resources in the link, and it has a transcript and some exercises and some advice if you want to take your learning a little further.
Yep. Yeah.